And welcome to a preseason edition of the Canes Corner podcast. I'm Adam Gold, and we are here after every Hurricanes game. There will be a select few this year that we won't be here because I won't be doing those games. But I would say if we assume we're going to have about 115 of these, 6 in the preseason, 82 in the regular season, and then another, 25 in the postseason. What's that? Yeah, it's not quite 115, but pretty close. Then I'll probably do 100 of them, maybe a little bit more, because we plan on being here really until the middle of June, don't we? But welcome to the Canes Corner podcast after a 2-1 win by the Hurricanes over the Tampa Bay Lightning. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. There it is, right there in that part of your screen. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanner's crew do a great job. You should check them out. All right. So we're not going to be here a ton of time tonight. For those of you who watched on your laptops, it wasn't easy to pick out everything that was going on, but that's all right. That's why we're here to just make it up. But I will tell you a couple of things that I did like, and I want to get into some just kind of a few things that I'm thinking about that I was thinking about going into this game that will kind of give us some direction. You got to figure out angles in the preseason. So let me just get to four things that I was thinking about when I saw the roster for tonight's game. The first thing that jumps out, and I know a lot of you are uber excited to see prospects. First thing that jumped out was Felix Ungersorum in the middle, Jackson Blake on the right, Bradley Nadeau on the left. The three top prospects for the Hurricanes among the forward group, all playing together. And I know what we would like. We would like to see one or two of those guys pop enough in the preseason to where Rod Brindamore goes, I got to take these guys. It'd be great if two, be okay if one. I still think the greater chances is zero, but that's okay. And I know they did well at the prospect tournament. Felix Ungersorum probably did the best at the prospect tournament. Bradley Nadeau might have the highest ceiling offensively, although, again, Ungersorum has a silky smooth nature about him. But of those three, Jackson Blake was the best player tonight. In fact, I thought Blake was good enough where he got one of my 3 stars of the game. He had a patient play for a pass to Jack Drury, which led to a great scoring chance. He had the one assist, I believe, on the Honka goal. Of course, nobody should really get assists on the Honka goal since the goal was entirely created by him and his skating ability and a good finish. But I thought Blake showed a lot of why he was a Hobey Baker Award finalist this past season. 60 points in 40 games at North Dakota. I mean, that's doing work. That's a lot of points. So here's a guy who was a third round pick a few years ago that has developed and blossomed. It's not huge. It's about 5'10". It's about 185 pounds. I don't think he's going to get a ton bigger. No, certainly not taller. He's 21. Not going to get a ton thicker, but I think is a pretty sturdy kid. I mean, he's bigger than Seth Jarvis, but I like the way he plays. He makes things happen. He's got great vision. And I think he's going to find a spot somewhere. I don't know that it'll be coming out of training camp, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Jackson Blake show up here with the Hurricanes at some point during the season. I think Bradley Nadeau probably needs to get a little bit bigger, like physically stronger. Just 19, had a huge season at Maine, 46 points, 19 goals, and I think 37 games. You play in the East in college hockey, and you put those kind of numbers up, I mean, that's just good. And the Black Bears have a great program. So, look, I think those two guys are pretty solid maybe top 6 NHL future players. But even if Blake's a top 9 guy, a middle 6 winger, that's good. I like Unger Sorm too, and the fact that he's never played center, and now doesn't look completely out of place in the middle. I will say that line got kind of abused in the first period. They were on the ice for the Tampa goal. Unger Sorum was bad in the faceoff circle. So they had some issues. So we got to temper all of it. But in the second period and the third, Rod just busted it up. And he had the 3 guys all playing with on different lines. In fact, they moved Blake with Drury and Jost, and I actually think that was Carolina's best line from the middle of the second period on. Nadeau played with Kotkaniemi and Brendan Lemieux, and Unger Sorum centered Sam Gagne and Eric Robinson on the fourth, whatever line it was, probably the third line. Skylar Brindamore was with Rocco Grimaldi and Juha Yaska. And Yaska just sounds like a summer drink to me. So that was my thought process with the young guys. There were some other things that I was thinking about going in, including because, and I am not, I want to say this first off. I think Jesperi Kotkaniemi, I was at training camp for a couple of days. I was there the first day on Thursday, and I was there Saturday. And I thought Kotkaniemi was noticeably quicker than he had been. And here's a guy that 3rd pick overall in the 18 draft, struggled in his career with Montreal, struggled to get ice time, struggled to stay in the lineup. Remember, he was a healthy scratch for the Canadiens in an elimination game. And then the Hurricanes steal him from the Habs with the offer sheet, and based on hope. I mean, we're going to be honest, right? Not based on what he did that year. He wasn't bad, but if you gave him a contract based on what he accomplished, then it wouldn't have been an 8-year deal for nearly $5 million a year. It just wouldn't have. Right? That contract is silly based on what he accomplished. So it was a bet that they placed on Kotkaniemi growing into a number 2 center and giving Carolina long-term value at an important position. I mean, hasn't worked out that way. He's not good enough to be a number 2 center, or hasn't been good enough to be a number 2 center. And for those people, well, he hasn't had opportunity. Well, no, he has. So this is the difference between last year and the year before with Kotkaniemi. The year before, 22-23, 43 points, 18 goals, 25 assists, 43 points. He was a plus 10, playing 14-44 a night. Now, I will say this. The point total's a little misleading because he had about four games with at least 3 points, including a 5-point game. So he compiled a bunch of points. He had like 53 games during the season where he had nothing. So he compiled those 43 points in like 36 games or something to that effect. Last year, he played more games. 12 goals, 27 points, so a drop of 16 points. He was a -4, and yes, his ice time went down to 13 minutes. So is that the reason for the drop in production, or is the drop in production the reason for the decreased ice time? Jack Drury had a better season than Jesperi Kotkaniemi last year. He's better defensively and better in the faceoff circle. Stands to reason that Rod Brindamore was going to eventually give Jack more time, except Drury actually got less ice time per game than Kotkaniemi. So, again, I'm not making it a comparison between the two. I'm explaining why Kotkaniemi, he just didn't have a good year. And in the second year of that contract, like this being year 3, it's time for KK. Like, I don't believe he's ever going to be a number 2 center, but it's time for him to at least get himself into a role where he can be a legitimate third line center and maybe help out, play with 2 wingers who can be offensive contributors. So he's got to be a guy who can patrol the middle of the ice, use his frame, create space, maybe be a playmaker at times, but he has to be defensively responsible. So he's got to get better at that. He's not bad defensively, but he has to become really good and reliable, and at times he's not. I mean, Jack Drury is. I think Drury profiles as an ideal third center. I don't know that Jack can be a 2. I just don't think his ceiling is that high. So Carolina has 2 players right now that are jockeying for a spot in the lineup. Now, they're both going to play. They're both centers. They both will play center for the Hurricanes. But I do believe that you've got these 2 guys that are going to ultimately be battling one another for one spot higher in the lineup. KK is going to get the first crack at it. So I think, and I talked about this on the radio show, and I talked about it in the pregame, I think that the preseason is going to tell Rod Brind'Amour just how much runway he will allow KK. So, and I thought it was a good start for Kotkaniemi tonight. I thought both he and Drury were very good. I think Jack might have been a little bit better, but I think it's negligible. Kotkaniemi was awesome in the faceoff circle. Won 16 out of 22. He was good. Drury was actually a little bit better offensively tonight. Just didn't score, which we're used to. So, over the course of 6 preseason games, I don't think these guys will each play more than 3. Maybe they play a 4th, but probably not more than 3. And throughout training camp, I think we will see, whether or how much runway Rod allows for KK, because he's going to start the season in that role, probably playing with Necas. And if it were me, I would play him with Necas and Svechnikov and have 2 stud wingers for the offensive creation and let KK do the dirty work inside. So that's what I would do. I don't know how Rod's going to work it. Right now, Rod's got Svechnikov playing with Aho and Jarvis. I'd almost like to see more of an energy guy there. I wouldn't mind seeing actually, I think Jack Roslovic might work okay there because he can really skate. So we'll see. We'll see how Rod plays it. Roslovic has been playing with Kotkaniemi and Necas. But I think for the Hurricanes to be as good as they can be, I think Necas and Svechnikov are more the tandem there than Kotkaniemi and Necas or Kotkaniemi and Svech. I'd like to see Necas and Svech play together. Jarvis and Aho are going to play together, and we'll see who that third wheel is on that side. Right now, it is Svech. But that's what I would like to see. But we'll see where Rod goes with it throughout the preseason and early in the season. But that, to me, is something worth keeping an eye on, the jockeying between Drury and Kotkaniemi. Last season, for much of the year, Drury was the better player, and I think significantly so. We'll see, new year, new you, hopefully Kotkaniemi, who I think it looks like he's in great shape. We'll see how KK handles this situation. The other thing I was looking at tonight was the play of some of those. Carolina signed some as free agents. Yost, Robinson, who I thought were both very good tonight. Brendan Lemieux, who had his moments tonight as well. Sam Gagner had a couple of really good chances. I think Gagner actually tied for the lead in shots on goal with 3, as well as Anthony Honka. Hurricanes only had 17 shots on goal tonight. It wasn't a lot. I mean, they only won 2-1. But some of these guys, some of these older guys, I thought played pretty well. Again, I thought Jost and Robinson, to me, stood out. And I don't know that both are going to make the team. It all depends on whether or not the Hurricanes keep with the club one of the rookies. Do you keep Blake? Do you keep Nadeau? Do you keep Felix Unger-Sorum? I don't know. Right now, I would say they don't, which opens the door for a Robinson, who, again, I think has a $900,000 one-year deal. William Carrier, by the way, skated in practice today after the morning skate, the game group skated. So Carrier was not in the yellow jersey, so he looks fit, and who knows, maybe we see him on Friday night when the Canes take on the Panthers at Lenovo Center. But the Hurricanes have covered themselves in case some of the rookies don't pop in training camp and preseason, and the Hurricanes go with veterans. And I know Tripp talked about it tonight, and I think he's right. I think those guys, Jost, Roslovic, who's a dynamite skater, Robinson, these guys will enhance the way Carolina plays. Because I think in general, they're good skaters, they're aggressive players, they are physical, and that's something that Carolina definitely can use within their lineup. The Hurricanes have plenty of cap room, so I'm not worried about that. They already had enough cap room, and then the Jesper Fast $2.4 million can come off with long-term injured reserve. I know the Hurricanes would love to bank some cap space between now and the deadline, just in case you're in a position to add something, you could do that. But so I was looking at those veteran players, and pretty much all of them did some good stuff. And again, I particularly like Jost, whose net front presence helped the Alexei Himasalmi goal that made it 2-1. And I thought Robinson was involved in many grade A scoring chances, a couple of 2-on-1s, one where he had the puck, tried to get at the Jack Jury, didn't get the pass through, probably should have shot it. The other, his net front presence made Lemieux's shot more difficult for Tampa's goaltender to handle. He handled it, so it wasn't a goal, but I thought there were a lot of good moments from Robinson and Tyson Jost tonight. So to me, that was another thing I was looking at. And the fourth thing was Pyotr Kochetkov. So I talked about this with Tripp today, and I think that this has to be the year. This is the second year of the 4-year deal. And we have gradually worked into a position where Kochetkov, if he's ever going to be the guy, this should be the year it starts. He played more games than any other Hurricanes goalie last year, but a lot of that was due to the fact that Anderson was gone with the blood clot issue until the last 20 games of the season. Then he and Anderson rotated. They alternated games, and then Anderson took over in the playoffs. We all know what happened at the end. Not going to belabor it. Ranta, of course, was no good. In fact, by the way, congrats to Ranta. He's going to play in Switzerland this year. I already miss his smile. Gosh, I love that guy. So Ranta's not here. Spencer Martin is in the minor leagues, and that's where he belongs. He is, to me, a solid minor league goalie who can come up and spell you when you need it. And they're going to need it. We know Anderson's history with injury and Kochetkov's history with getting banged up. But to me, we need to see Pyotr Kochetkov look like an NHL goalie. I mean, an NHL #1 goalie. And I thought tonight he did. So just a preseason game, and Tampa had a nothing lineup tonight. Their best offensive players were who? Nick Paul. I know the Logan Brown had the goal, but no. Nick Paul, Zygmus Zegmund, whatever is Freud. I don't know. Girgensson. So Tampa didn't have a great lineup in. He allowed the goal, couldn't see it. He was drifting a little bit. We're going to have to keep, we might have to tether him to the goal crease. He was not awesome with the puck. He had one nice poke check, but he gave the puck away a couple of times, and those will end up goals in the end during the regular season. So that's got to get cleaned up. But it was game one. But in terms of making saves, I thought Piotr was excellent tonight. And we want to see more of that. I'm in a way kind of bummed that Yanni Peretz didn't get in the game because that would have been 3 Quinnipiac Bobcats on the ice in the same building in which they won the NCAA championship a couple of years ago. Skylar Brindamore played. Charles Alexis Legault, or they kept on the Tampa Jumbotron, they kept calling him Legault. I assume it's Legault. I don't know. We're not close. But I thought we saw some good things from him. Anyway, we had 3 Quinnipiac Bobcats. Would have been nice to see Peretz get in the game, but Kochetkov went start to finish, looked good, really good, and I think an encouraging sign for the regular season. Postseason we'll deal with when we get there, but it was nice to see Kochetkov play well, and for the most part, not for the most part, I mean, he really did play well. So let me throw these Kochetkov numbers at you, although we have talked about it before. Last year, 40 starts, 23, 13, and 4, 911 save percentage, 233 goals against average. That's excellent, right? Last year, the gaudy save percentages don't exist anymore. You know, if you're at 93%, you probably led the league. So he was at 91.1%. But let's look at it over the last 30 games. Because if you go back to last season, Kochetkov struggled in the first 10. But from the Ottawa game on, so what was that? Like the 2nd of December on, 30 games played for Kochetkov. 19, 7, and 3. The record is the record. It's about the same as the other record. It's slightly better. 923 save percentage in those last 30 games. So is that more what Kochetkov is about? Because if that's more Kochetkov, that's your number one goalie. And then Anderson is not going to be a true backup. But you could have Kochetkov start 46 games, Anderson 36. Granted, they're both going to be hurt for some. So Spencer Martin picks up the bulk of the additional work. That's what I was looking at tonight. I was looking at the kids. Jackson Blake, to me, the best of the 3, although I don't know that any of them necessarily changed the calculus for the way Rod is leaning when it comes to putting the roster together for opening night. So we're looking at the kids. We were looking at Drury versus Kotkaniemi. We were looking at the veteran wingers who popped. Hey, maybe somebody plays up in the lineup at times because Carolina they're probably a power forward short or a scoring forward short, which does open the door for one of the rookies. But one of those rookies who makes the team, I want you to all keep this in mind. It isn't so much, hey, can they score at this level? It's can they play at this level? And it's difficult because Carolina's system, it doesn't demand that you play well defensively because Martin Necas hasn't necessarily played well defensively, nor has Andrei Svechnikov necessarily played well defensively. But this system asks of you, demands of you that you forecheck hard, play smart. Don't ignore your defensive responsibility. Sometimes just being in the right place is enough. So are either Nadeau or Blake or Unger Sorum, are they prepared? Are they ready to do that? My suspicion is they're not. But we've got 5 more games of the preseason, and decisions will be made after that. Other than that, I think we're done. I thought this was short, sweet, nice. We'll see you after Friday's game against the Florida Panthers. This has been the Canes Corner podcast. I am Adam Gold. Thank you so much for spending time with us here on the Canes Corner podcast, brought to us by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, that's the place to go, aluminumcompany.com. Until Friday against Florida, when we'll come up with other things to think about as we see the lineup. I am Adam Gold. We will see you next time.